Long-time viewers of my channel will know how much I appreciate Roon. Go check out my previous video if you want to know the basics of what Roon does and why I love it. Now, if you don't know what it is and just want the TLDR, essentially it's a bit of software that enables us to organize our offline music and integrate it with music from Tidal or Qobuz, then find loads of gorgeous metadata to go with it, and most importantly, stream it to hi-fi equipment around our houses in really excellent lossless quality. That's just the tip of the iceberg, but it'll do for now. To use Roon, you need a central Roon core, which in my case is an M1 Mac Mini, and that runs the Roon server software with all my music stored on an external hard drive. I love this solution because the Mac Mini draws very little power, so to have it idling constantly in the background is very economical. On my hard drive, I've got about 1,500 albums of FLAC encoded music, mainly ripped from my extensive CD collection, but also there are some digital downloads in there. I've also got about another 150 Tidal albums integrated into my library. Once your music is all in place, Roon works its magic, pulling metadata, building links between artists, albums and tracks, and then curating suggested playlists. You can then send all that music from your Roon core or server to various endpoints, which can be anything from a mobile device to a really expensive hi-fi streamer. Roon also plays really nicely with AirPlay devices and also has Chromecast support, so there really is wide compatibility with most home audio equipment. But that's where Roon has traditionally hit the buffers. Until recently, all these excellent features were confined to use within your home Wi-Fi network. But Roon version 2, along with its accompanying software Roon Arc, aims to bring some big updates to the whole Roon experience, and it definitely does, but it also comes with some compromises. So once you've updated to version 2, the interface looks really familiar, but there are some big important changes under the hood, including that for us M1 Mac users, we now get a version that's native to Apple Silicon, which is great. The two biggest changes, however, are the introduction of the Roon Arc software, which we'll talk about in a minute, and also the need for a constant internet connection when you're using Roon. The latter of these changes has upset a lot of audiophiles who have used Roon for years to play their offline music libraries. Previously, you did need an internet connection when you initially set up your library in order for Roon to organize your music and fetch the metadata, but after that, you didn't need to be connected to the internet to enjoy playback of your offline music around your own home network. No longer. Roon now needs to talk over the internet the whole time, and if your internet connection goes down, music playback will stop at some point. Now that might be instantaneous or it might take a while, but eventually no internet, no music. Now I think a lot of people have found this change rather perplexing, and it's easy to understand why, especially if you're not bothered about integrating Tidal or Qobuz streaming into your library. There's a load of angst about this on the Roon community forums. According to a post by Danny Dulay, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Roon, it appears that the change was made to enable enhanced software functionality. For example, in being able to offer a much more robust and consistent search engine. I kind of get it, because clearly Roon has to keep innovating to justify its really high price, which we'll come back to at the end of the video. But it's a real shame that they couldn't preserve the legacy offline playback functionality as a fallback for those times when my internet connection just goes kaput. For now, if the need for 24/7 internet connectivity is a deal breaker for you, your only real option is to stay on the legacy 1.8 release of Roon Core, which at the moment anyway continues to function just fine. Or I guess you could switch to a different service, and there are some really good options out there, but none of them, in my opinion anyway, has quite the same overall functionality of Roon. Now, if you did decide to stay on Roon 1.8, you'll be missing out on the best new feature of Roon version 2, which is Roon Arc. So what is Roon Arc? Essentially, it's an app that for now you can download onto your iPhone or Android, and it allows you to play your Roon library whilst you're away from your home network. Now that's a total game changer for me. Look, I appreciate that other services such as Plex have offered this functionality for like forever, but it's a big new addition to Roon. Setting it up is easy. You just go to the new Arc tab within the settings page in Roon, and for most users, configuration is automatic and reliable. Now I've got zero idea of how to configure my home network or router, but I didn't have to do anything to get it to work perfectly. Just to give you an idea, my own network comprises a fiber broadband modem hooked up to a Google Wi-Fi mesh router, to which my M1 Mac is connected via an Ethernet cable. Now I'm sure that there can be hiccups with network configuration and functionality, and I appreciate that I've been lucky here. If it doesn't work for you, you definitely need to go and search the community fora. There are plenty of network geeks on there who will be happy to help you out. I've got the Arc software downloaded onto both my iPhone 14 Pro and my Pixel 7 Pro, and it does for the most part feel like a seamless and very familiar Roon experience. It's an attractive interface, scaled perfectly for your mobile phone screen. I've found that the connectivity and stability of the software is very good, regardless of whether I'm using it within my home Wi-Fi network or out and about on LTE or a 5G connection. You can select the streaming quality of playback. So I've got it set to play the original FLAC file when I'm connected via Wi-Fi and a bandwidth optimized file when I'm on cellular. One of the great features of Roon, of course, is that you can see easily what quality your music is playing in. So for example, here you can see that as I was listening to an Air album on my 5G connection, the original FLAC file has been converted to a format called Opus, in this case 256 kilobits per second, and it played flawlessly. If you're an Android, another great feature is the ability of Roon Arc to output bit perfectly to a USB DAC, such as my FIO BTR5, so it can bypass the Android sample rate conversion process. You can also download files from your own collection to be played offline within Roon Arc, but it always seems to download in the original lossless format, which is not ideal on my 128 gig non-expandable Pixel 7 Pro. I can't see an option to download in, for example, 256 Opus, which would save me a lot of space. It's important to note, however, that you can't download Tidal or Qobuz content through the Roon Arc software. It's a limitation imposed by all of these streaming services, which means that you can only offline Tidal or Qobuz through their respective native apps. So overall, I think Roon Arc is a decent first attempt at an on-the-go solution, although there are areas that could quite clearly be improved. I don't think its functionality is quite as slick as Plexamp, for example, but I'm sure it will be incrementally improved over the coming months and years. If you're heavily invested in the Roon ecosystem at home and you value the insights it gives you into your music collection, you'll really appreciate the ability to have that same or certainly very similar experience packaged up in your phone. Remember, Roon gets better and better the more you use it, as it learns your musical tastes and listening habits. So it's fantastic that you can continue that seamless learning process whilst you're listening to music away from home. Sadly, there is no Roon Arc app yet for Mac or Windows, and I really do think they need to address this urgently. Overall, though, for a first attempt, colour me impressed. The most contentious part of the Roon experience has always been the high cost, and sadly, as of now in January 2023, subscriptions are even more expensive. So we now start at a monthly subscription price of $15 a month, $150 a year, or if you're feeling super rich, $830 for a lifetime subscription. Now these are all very significant hikes to what was already an expensive service, and even really well-to-do audio connoisseurs might be tempted to search for alternatives. I myself am on a 3-month special deal which runs through to the end of March, but I'm not sure I can justify paying the full price for Roon after that. Because as much as I love Roon, there are cheaper or free alternatives that do pretty much the same things, albeit not as elegantly. So for playing music around the house, I can use the Logitech music server, again installed on my M1 Mac Mini, or even Plex, now that I can install the dedicated Plex amp software on a Raspberry Pi. In terms of accessing my music library on the go, I can once again use Plex amp, which is really good. I'll make a video about it sometime. Or I could just download the offline files that I need onto my phone directly. Of course, I can use the Tidal app to stream and offline all my Tidal content. Plex is considerably cheaper than Roon, with my Black Friday special lifetime subscription costing me just $75, half the price of a year's worth of Roon. So there's no doubt that as long as you can live with the need for constant internet connectivity, Roon version 2 is the best version of the Roon software yet, and Roon Arc offers a compelling new reason to get into Roon. However, I think it will remain the preserve of the wealthier audiophile, which is a real shame, as when Roon works, it works really well, far better than any other audio software currently available. So that's it for this video, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you use Roon? What do you think about the new internet connectivity? And would you pay the elevated prices? It's always great to hear your thoughts. And as ever, if you enjoy my content, a subscription to the channel is really helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please do give me a thumbs up, and I'll catch you in the next video.